Welcome back, Sethling here. This is episode 2 of Minecraft Mega Blocks, where I recreate normal Minecraft blocks at a 16:1 scale. In this episode, I'll be covering the mob spawner here, the daylight detector, and I'm going to be going over the guts of the dispenser that I didn't show in the last video. Alright, so first up we have the mob spawner. Here you can see a model mob spawner. This is a zombie spawner, obviously. You've got the zombie kind of floating and spinning in midair, and there's all the fire particles around that. So, we've got a pretty similar thing here. The zombie isn't spinning around. Well, good timing, zombie. Thank you. He's not spinning around exactly, but he is kind of floating. And we've got all these little bits of fire set. Fire tick is turned off. That's why the fire is not going out on this obsidian. And of course, since this is Minecraft Mega Blocks, the mob spawner works. Now, there's a couple of requirements that a mob spawner, like a zombie spawner, needs in order to spawn. A player has to be within 16 blocks of a spawner like this. Since this is a 16:1 scale, that means that a player would have to be within 256 blocks, which is essentially just means that the chunk is loaded. So, I didn't add in a proximity detector for that. But the other requirement is that it has to be dark enough for the mob to spawn. So, in here we actually have a daylight sensor and there's some redstone underground, so that when I go ahead and set the time to night, after a couple seconds, mobs actually will spawn here. So we got the zombies spawning. Now they spawn on a clock, just like with a mob spawner like this. There we go, that one spawned from the spawner here, but we're going to get more zombies spawning from the dispensers here. So, yeah, it really works a lot like a real mob spawner. And the daylight detector that we're going to get to in a bit, you can see that just lost its last bit of light. Anyway, I'll show that in a minute. But if I set the time back to day, well, all these zombies are going to burn up. But they're also going to stop spawning from the big spawner here, and the little spawner. And so this is a giant. This is a mob that is. There's code for the giants in the game, but there's no way to spawn a giant without external tools, so I used an MC edit filter to do that. But that's pretty much it for the mob spawner. I can show you the redstone down here. There's just a little clock hooked up to the daylight detector, and the clock gets turned off by the daylight detector if there's too much light, and that triggers the dispensers here. Very simple redstone, but I think it looks pretty cool. Oh, where did I even come in here? Oh, there. I think it's pretty cool with the giant. The giant happens to be just the right size for my 16:1 scale mob spawner, so pretty cool. Alright, so next I'm going to show you the daylight detector. We've got a little model over here, the actual daylight detector. You have all the solar cells on top. And now this one has lamps, and lamps basically indicate the strength of the sunlight. You know, much like the daylight detector outputs the strength of the sunlight, well, this does too, and it displays it on the lamps. So if I go ahead and set the time to 22,500, that's like really early morning, and you can see most of the lamps turn off. We only have one lamp on here. And as I add 1,000 to the time, more lights light up, and yep, until you hit, eventually you'll hit midday, and all the lights will light up. Let's see, almost there, almost there. Yeah, there's one more lamp here that needs to be lit up, and there we go. So, and then if we kept going, it would decrease and whatever. Yeah, so I guess it just got past a part of the day where it's going to decrease the signal. Anyway. So the redstone down here I'm actually really happy with because I think it's very simple. Whoops. Replace that. Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Actually, let's just drink a night vision potion. That'll be good. Ah, much better. So, if I can find it, there is a... Ah, here we are. So there's a daylight detector here. Now, basically because of the way I put this all together, and the way MC Edit kind of glitched this out a little bit, this is able to detect daylight even though it's not exposed to the sun. So this is detecting daylight, and it's outputting the signal strength based on the daylight. And then I have basically a bunch of comparators that carry that signal all the way down this chain, and it kind of snakes around back, and then snakes around back through the other 3 cells here. So you can see it's a big snake pattern from below. And the comparators basically carry just enough of the signal that it just barely makes it all the way to the end over there. So when you have something like this, with 2 deaths in a row, it's going to decrease by a signal strength of 1, and so every once in a while it decreases by a signal strength of 1, and that's what causes only a certain number of lights to light up when the signal strength isn't at full. So I thought it was really cool, kind of using the same signal strength over and over by using the comparators like this, and it allows you to kind of use the same signal strength over a long distance. And it took me a while to figure out that that's what you could do. So the last thing I want to do here is come to the dispenser. Now, last time I didn't go over what was inside the dispenser. This time I'll go ahead and do that. To remind you, the dispenser basically, you put an item in the top and it starts spewing out that item. So this one worked for arrows, snowballs, and cat spawn eggs. And if I hop inside, we can actually take a look at what's going on here. Okay, so basically there's a sorting system. So when you toss an item in the top, it comes through these, and it'll try and go to the end here. So if I put in something like light gray wool, you heard the arrow stopped going, and it came all the way to the ends. The reason it came to the end is because it didn't match any of the items in the hoppers here. So there's arrows, there's there's the cat eggs, and there's snowballs here. So, obviously only arrows can fit into this hopper. Now the reason that hopper isn't outputting to this dropper here that it's pointing towards is because the dropper is full. So the hopper isn't able to output anything, and that's what keeps it at 22 items. Now when it gets to 23 items, it has just enough signal strength to turn off this torch, which goes over here and triggers this dropper. So as soon as it gets a 19th item in this hopper, it causes this dropper to lose an item, which allows the hopper to fill in that one item and puts the hopper back at 18. So, but not only does it do that, but it also, this dropper drops the item into this dropper, and this dropper is used to detect basically which item you put in last. If I'll put an arrow back in again. It gets filtered into there. So now we caused this dropper to drop the item into this one, and now this comparator says, okay, there's an arrow here, so let's start spewing out arrows. There's a little clock here that triggers that arrow dispenser. And then whenever any item comes through here, it causes all of these droppers here to lose their items. So if I put in a potion of night vision, it'll just drop that arrow onto the ground. So this dropper no longer has an item. The comparator is no longer on, and so it stops spewing out the arrows. And this is not, I'm sure this is not the most efficient sorting system, but this is just something I kind of came up with on my own. It fit all my constraints, and it worked well for the dispenser. So that's how the dispenser was working. I know a lot of you are wondering. That's about it for this episode of Minecraft Mega Bloks. Tune in next time. I'll have some more Mega Bloks for you. That's about it. Thanks for watching.